Hi everyone, I'm so happy that you're here to join me for the Way of the Animal podcast. Welcome to today's podcast, Alastair. Every time I press record, I have this moment of, what was he going to say? Anyway, today's podcast, I thought it'd be quite interesting, going on the time of year, and what I've been doing is reflecting, and just reflecting on this last year and seeing the journey it's taken me on. I was thinking about it on my dog walk this morning. It was like some of the winter solstice celebrations and things, it lasts 12 days because they felt like the sun didn't move for 12 days and it was time to go inward and reflect before we move forward into the new year sort of thing.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So what sort of reflections?
Well, I thought we could reflect on anything, really, because reflection's reflection. It was very interesting because I think what came to me as well was that feeling of, you can't step in the same river twice, in the same way that I am not the same person I was when I started 2024. In fact, none of us are.
No.
In that physically we're not, because our cells have changed. But like beyond that, there's, even if it doesn't feel like anything's changed or you haven't grown or learned or
life experience has changed.
Yeah, you have.
Even if it's just simply another year.
And, sometimes there's that feeling of we shouldn't look back. But sometimes I think it's important just to spend even a short spell of time just having a quick look back of what we've gone through in the year and learn from it, and it helps us to then move forward, I feel.
It very much, in my mind, makes me think of sort of looking back at things I'm grateful for in the year. Yeah.
But it's like, so that's the thing, is like when you look back, it's very easy to look at the things that really were challenging. And well, no, it can be very easy if you've had a hard year to focus on all the things that went wrong, quotation, that you struggled with and things like that. And I think, so in reflection, that's not all that we should reflect on. Yeah. We should also reflect on the gifts we've had from the year, the good things that have happened, and be grateful for it all, regardless of the challenge and the gift. And finding, I think when you look into the challenges, as long as they're not really, really recent, in which case you're not quite through them, you can always find the gift in the challenge, even if it doesn't feel like there wouldn't be one.
I always find that when I do things like that, when I look back at challenges or things that haven't quite gone to plan, the mindset I have over it is like, I got through it, I got past it, I'm dealing with, like, it's always I managed to get through that, like it's a positive.
Well, yeah. And that's because you're you. And it's fair, very easy to get stuck in. Some of them are still in
the process of going through, but it's still that.
I think when you look at it as well, you can look at it in a way of, well, how did I rise to the challenge? Yeah. What part of me, what aspect of me really rose to that challenge? And now I feel more confident about these challenges because I've made it through that one,
That's it. And like sometimes when the challenges occur, they can seem insurmountable. Mm-hmm. And then when you look back on it, it's like, actually, no, I managed to deal with that, which is just helps you feel more powerful and stronger and more confident.
Yeah, and it's more confident in yourself. I think it's creating a better level of trust and understanding with yourself. And, for me, trusting myself has been part of my challenges. So I'm quite pleased that I am trusting myself a lot more.
Yeah. So do you want to go chronologically?
No.
What's something early in the year that you
No, I don't want to go chronologically. And you're not allowed to ask me. I came up with the topic. And we don't even have to personally reflect ourselves on the year if we don't want to. And it's funny, when I look back, the year for me this year feels like a blur.
I feel like a lot of years do feel like that, especially the older you get. I feel like time feels like it moves faster the older you are. You know, when you're a teenager, when you're 14, 15, a year is a long time. When you're like us, slightly over 15,
just a wee bit,
then a year isn't that long.
Yeah.
So I think that contributes to the feeling of the year being a bit of a blur. But there are definitely standout moments in every year.
Yeah, always.
That's the silence of us trying to think of a standout moment. I mean, big standout moment that had a big change on us was going to get the new dog, Callan.
Oh, yeah.
That was a fairly big event.
For you.
Well, he has quite a large impression on our lives. Yeah. But yeah, that was a big event, and there was a lot of challenges in it. And even at the start of it, I wasn't sure whether I should do it or shouldn't do it. I'm glad I did.
Yeah, there was a lot of the critical thinking mind involved in your process that I interrupted and ruined for you.
You did. I mean, it still fitted with all my doubts were all valid.
Yeah.
I didn't want to get another dog until we'd lost a dog, so that at least I wasn't increasing the number. It was calving cows at that time, so it was a busy time of year. You know, they're valid. And they're still valid to this day. But, yeah, you were like, yeah, just go get it.
Well, my feeling was that, you know, the wheel still turns. And sometimes you just need to take the time to do what you want to do for you. And you know what? Nothing really, you know, it's just more important to do that than anything else when it comes down to it.
I think the big takeaway from it, and something that I've known about throughout life, but not always embraced, is there's always an excuse not to do something.
That's what
it doesn't matter what it is.
The wheel still turns.
There's always an excuse not to do it.
There's always a reason. There's always a reason, and that's that critical thinking is like, there's always a reason. And yes, a lot of them are valid, or they're all valid. Yep. They're all valid reasons, but at some stage you just got to go, well, you know what? Life's short, and this is what I want, and I'm just going to go for it. And
that's it. It's the old, I could get hit by a bus tomorrow.
Yeah. Well, I hate that phrase, but yeah, okay, fair enough.
Well, it's just you said,
the wheel turns, everything is always changing, so you never know what's going to happen next. So,
when you get to the end, you're not going to be there, oh, I'm glad I didn't take that opportunity.
Yeah, yeah.
You're going to be grateful of all the opportunities you took.
Yeah.
Regardless of how they work out.
And it felt very guided. You know, there was that point where the litter was introduced to you and you were still going, no, no, no. And I said, well, why are you going no now?
Yeah.
Because having spent a good portion of 2023 looking for huntaway, which is what it is, huntaway dogs in North America or America itself, and finding that no one really had them. And it was, you know, the option then was looking at importing from New Zealand. And then you're talking about getting a puppy that's older because you can't import until it was a whole thing.
It was, yeah.
And it was, forget the added cost. It was like that special bonding time you have with a puppy.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Definitely.
Would have been taken away at that stage, and there was a whole thing. Anyway, and it just felt like this landed on your lap, and then, you know, when you turned up to pick him up, and you knew which one you thought you wanted.
Yeah.
And you had your pick, but you thought you knew the one you wanted, and you turned up and he came and sat, like all the other puppies were running around. He came and sat on your foot and leaned against your leg like, hi, I'm glad you're here to get me now. Yeah. You know? It was very funny, that. Yeah. The guy I picked them up for was, he was like, oh, it was the big male that you were thinking about. I was like, where is he? And I looked down and he's just leaning against my leg, looking up at me like, hello. I'm here, I'm ready to go now. While all the others are wrestling and messing around. Yeah. And that's like we've always said before, following threads. When you feel like you're being guided into something and it's very easy to come into a state of resistance because your critical mind is thinking, well, this isn't the best time. This isn't the best point in my life for this to happen. But you know what? Sometimes it just happens, and if you follow that thread, you don't lose that opportunity.
But it was a time of turmoil. Our permanent residency invitation got refused.
Really, I was thinking about it. Our year started in turmoil.
Yeah.
Because we were already having immigration problems, and it was a really rough way to start the year because it was hard to look forwards where we didn't know where our forwards was.
Yeah, and that's I feel like we live quite well in the moment, but it's a difficult place to live because as we stand now, all our residency stuff is still kind of up in the air, and it is infinitesimally, I can't say that word, small possibility that we could be refused everything and asked to leave. But it's still there.
Yeah.
So, it's been a year of turmoil, and in the back of your mind, that sort of niggling, what would happen if they said, get out?
It's that whole thing, like, some of the key things that people need or want to feel is safe. And if you struggle with that, like I do, immigrating's not a good idea.
Not the way that immigration of governments treat you.
No. So it's that thing. It's you don't really feel welcomed, and then it feels like, depending on someone's mood, your whole life can be changed in an instant.
Yep.
And so, that's one of the gifts, the learnings, the lessons that I've been working through this year is finding my own safety with myself and who I am.
That sort
instead
of self-reliance.
Of needing external things to be the way I want them for me to feel safe. Yeah. And really, you can't control the external things to make you feel safe. And there's plenty of people, and I was one of those people
that tried to
control external things to make it feel easier to feel safe. But really, that's not what it's about. It's about finding your own safety and your own trust and faith in yourself and your ability to deal with whatever comes up, because, you're safe, but, your safety can be sort of quotation threatened by life, you know?
That's it. And it does take away a little bit of the security if you don't feel confident in yourself as security.
Yeah. And, we were talking about it just recently, and really whatever happens, and, we will do something else or whatever, we'll pivot. But my main concern, and I can understand it, how people with kids would be the same, is like my main concern is the safety and happiness of the dogs. Yep. Like, I feel like we can cope. It's the dogs, especially aging dogs, traveling them, especially flights and things. There's a few now, there's a couple now that I wouldn't want to put through a flight.
No, not at all.
So, there's that sort of niggling fear of not creating the safety for them.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very true. And it's one of the things about reflections that I like, is because when you look back on it, and you look back on all the years and all the challenges and opportunities and bumps in the road that we've come across, but we've always just
found a way,
dealt with it, found a way, pivoted, whatever is needed done, we've got through everything.
It's always hard in that time.
Yeah.
Where everything feels like it's falling apart and all your plans and dreams are just like...
We've had plenty of those.
Yeah. But, we've always come out doing something else and then that something else doesn't necessarily work out, and then we don't, it's just like, you just got to keep moving in a way. Nothing stands still. The wheel is always turning.
Yeah.
Everything's always changing. So I think it's just understanding that it's how you are. It's like why we talk about a lot about sort of looking after yourself and finding your own fears and being able to overcome them, because that's how you deal with the challenges that life throws at you.
Exactly. It's like all these entrepreneurs and things that make millions, lose millions, make millions, lose. Like, they've got themselves into that position where they know how to have a successful business, whatever it is, and when it falls apart, well, they know how to start up again. And
I mean, when you think about it, everyone does it. It's just that sometimes we don't recognize how well we've done.
But reflection allows you to.
Exactly. So it's like giving yourself time for that the reflection, so that you could recognize, you've made it through the year.
Yeah.
It may have not felt very graceful or pleasant, but you've made it through all your challenges because you're still here.
Yeah. And the challenges can be different for everybody. It can be, like I said, some entrepreneur who's bankrupt and millions in debt and pulls himself out of it, or it can be someone who's struggling with
well, I think as well,
getting a job or finding work.
All challenges, even though they seem like they're a physical thing, are always mental and emotional when it really comes down to, because that's why I'm saying it's so important to reflect the self and look at how much you've grown as a person, because really it's your ability to deal with the external challenges. It's like looking at the perspective we see life from is the perspective that we deal with things, if that makes sense.
It's very much the sort of reflection you're thinking about is the reflection of reflecting on the growth you've had. Yeah.
Just reflecting on how you've changed and adapted. It's like, it's like we're designed to do, and animals are designed to do. They're designed to adapt to the environment around them.
Yes.
And for some people, the adaptation, whatever the word is, can be fighting against it. And that's what fuels them through.
Mm-hmm.
And for some people, it's kind of almost rising above what's going on and being able to move through it in a different way. It's just, like each one is its own way of adapting, but it's always adapting who you are, how you're feeling, and how you're being. And like you said, every challenge is different. Some challenges can just be, physically getting through every day because of something that's going on in your life. And some people it's struggling with their business or struggling with their work, or, it's like some days the challenge can be what seems very simple, but actually you accomplish it is the same amount of...
Well, that's the thing, is it might seem simple to someone on the outside.
Yeah.
But if for you, the just getting up in the morning was your biggest challenge, it's still your biggest challenge. It doesn't matter if...
Yeah.
You can't compare it to what someone else did.
You can't put it on a scale, because we're each individuals and we each have our own challenges and our own lives we're living. And I think comparison is the worst thing you could be doing, and it's an easy way to berate yourself when you feel like your challenges are so small. Well, how come I'm not managing? And then you look at other people. Very easy for me. I've had a couple of friends lose very close family members this year, and I'm struggling with something else that seems so pathetic in comparison to what they're going through, but then realizing that no, that's their challenge right now, and this is my challenge. And,
It's funny, though, because I don't agree that you can't put it on a scale, but the scale is, like...
It's your own scale. It has to be your own scale. It can't be a comparison scale of, like I said.
It can't be other people's
That's
scales.
That's what I'm saying. It's like you can't be like, well, I'm just pathetic because I'm just struggling with, coping with the fact that it's dark in the winter, I haven't had much sun or something. Mm-hmm. And then here's my friends here, losing family members that they're very close to. And it's just like, you can't look at it like that. That's not what it's about. Because that's their growth and their challenges, and this is about you and your growth and your challenges. Yeah.
That's exactly what it is. And if it is or even if it just seems the hardest thing in the world at that moment, well, it is the hardest thing in the world at that moment, and nothing else could be worse.
Congratulate yourself that you moved through it.
Even when you get through it and you look back and go, that wasn't that bad, actually. Because that's what happens a lot, is you're like, this is a big thing, and then you get to the other side and you're like, that wasn't actually that big. But remember, taking that as it wasn't that big, look how well I dealt with that massive problem, can be really empowering when you come across something else.
It helps you to learn how to cope and move forwards with following challenges.
Exactly.
That come at
the
you.
thing to watch, though, I think, would be to look back at it and go, that wasn't that bad. How stupid was I? To berate yourself for thinking
that's
it was.
not. Yeah, no, it's like, that wasn't that bad. Well, I can learn that, sometimes it can feel like the hardest challenge in the world, but I can do it. It's not as big as it seems.
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
That comes into like the CBT, cognitive behavior therapy. A lot of that is I perceive that this is the challenge that I'm going to face. And then you write down, so it can be used for things like anxiety, going out in public or something like that. So you can write down going out in public and then all the anxious feelings and thoughts that you would have, go do it. Write down actually how it was after the fact, once you've got through it, and your opinion of it is always, it wasn't actually that bad.
Yeah, it wasn't as bad as I perceived it.
And then you can look like, I thought it was going to be really bad. It wasn't that bad, and it helps you understand.
It helps you understand your thought patterns as well, that, you can sometimes end up like thinking the worst of what it's going to be, and then actually it's never as bad as you thought it would be. And then, so it helps you then to feel more confident and happy about doing the things you thought were.
It also gives you that critical thinking of the gut reaction. This is a huge thing. I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
It gives you that critical thinking ability to go, well, that other thing was like that and it wasn't actually that bad, so I can probably handle this too. And like they say, everything just starts with little steps. Yeah.
But so I just felt like it was important to have if you can't make time to reflect on yourself, on how you've grown in this year, then what are you doing? Because it's the way you can move forwards with yourself, because you'll realize that you aren't the same person that you started the year.
Not at all.
I forgot what I was going to say. It's gone. But
it's interesting though, because one of the reflections of one of the challenges that we had that we're working on is our immigration. That was a big challenge, and it was a big shock and a big surprise, and a whole lot of stuff to go along with it. We're still in a very similar position as to where we were at the start of the year, but we're dealing with it. So even though we haven't moved past it, we are working on it and reflecting on the ability to have that challenge put in front of you, scramble and try and find solutions, and then start putting them into place and working through it. That's still a positive reflection.
And knowing that we can change how we feel about things within it.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's almost like it's allowed me to change my mindset about the immigration, going from fear and feeling like everyone has control of my reality, because that's what it feels like, because they have the control over my future, and actually almost hating them for that, which is obviously sending out all the wrong energy, to actually just kind of being okay, it will be what it will be, and we will do what we want to do, whatever that will be, and it's just gonna work out how it works out. We can only do the best we can do with the knowledge we have at this time, and that's all we can do.
I like that, and that's very much how I look at it. And I've had struggles throughout the year dealing with it. A lot for me is frustration and annoyance, because we've been here for nearly 3 years now, have job, pay taxes, we're doing all the things you should be doing, and there's still a question as to whether or not we should be here or could be here. But the way I deal with it is that sort of, well, we can, whatever happens.
Yeah.
And if they say no to this next one, well, there are other options. We can go and do this. We can go and do that.
And then it's like feeling like, we're talking about opportunities. Sorry to interrupt you. Perhaps whatever's going to happen with it often opens up a different opportunity that we didn't even realize was there for us. And, changes our life for the better that we didn't even know. It's like feeling like we need to be where we are and stay the same isn't always the best course for us. And it's only when challenges come up that's when you realize sometimes that the change is what you needed after all,
Well, that was because when we came to Canada, we were at one place which from the outside looking in looked like it was going to be the perfect fit and wasn't at all. And then we changed to another place which is closer to a perfect fit. And it's sometimes changes in what you perceive as your path are opportunities.
Yeah.
That's why I always like the sort of theory that challenges aren't always a negative thing. They can be new opportunities. So perhaps another bump in the immigration road that would take us somewhere else would be the opportunity
that we were looking for that we didn't even know we were looking for. You know what I mean?
Or at the very least, it opens us up to a whole bunch of new experiences.
That's it. And, life's about experiences and experiencing life. So if you think that staying in the same place it has to be your answer because you feel good here, it's realizing that actually there's so much more that could happen and will happen quite often. And then the other thing, just quickly, I thought would be interesting to have a reflect about is the podcast.
Oh.
Because I started it February, March. We're at episode
something.
I think this is 42 or 43. It's over 40. So that's 40 weeks.
Yeah.
One a week.
Not quite a year yet.
No, not quite a year. I know I started in February or March or something. I like how I don't even know. I started at some point.
One a week.
The beginning of the year. And just how it's, I said at the start, I didn't know what it was going to be or how it would evolve. And, it's still going to continue to evolve. But for now, it seems to be about us having conversations about things. Whereas I thought initially it was going to be me on my own.
Yeah.
Just talking about things. So I'm enjoying that it's a conversation, therefore there's two different people's perspective on a topic.
Yeah, no, I like that too. And I've often thought that the things, especially we'd always do it in the car, but things we would sit and talk about, I mean, to me it was interesting. So I don't know if it's interesting to other people or not, but hey, now it's out there so other people can find out if it's interesting or not.
Exactly. Some people might be drawn to it, some won't. I've looked at it as it's not something that I'm trying not to get drawn into looking at how many people have downloaded it and listened to it.
Yeah.
Because that's that looking at your, validating yourself on. It's like the likes and things on social media and things like that. Because really it's just more about talking about things and it will reach the people it's meant to reach when it reaches them.
Yeah.
I
think when you do anything in the public sphere, it's important to remember why you're doing the thing and why you like the thing.
Yeah.
And despite, and this is just a case of the world, negative people tend to be more loud.
Yeah.
It's that thing, when you buy something, you don't always go and leave a 5-star review. But if you really hated it, you're going to leave that 1-star review. It's just, that's the way things end up being.
And it's also like we tend to notice the negative. It's
you
like
do,
they
but
have
then also,
more energy to them sometimes.
It's that thing, and I've been experiencing it too with writing. It's, I write things that I like. I write in a way that I like. I'm very interested to see how other people perceive it. But I don't really care if people are like, I don't like this. I don't like the way you did this. Because there's some people who are like, I really like the way you did this. So,
well, it's the same way as like we read different books.
Yes.
I don't really like the books that you read, and
I don't like the books you read.
It's just like it's each person's perspective and what they like. And it's the same with the podcast. And it's a bit like, some people will listen to most of a podcast. Like, I'll follow them for a while and then, it drops off and I won't listen to podcasts at all.
Yeah.
Or I'll just be drawn to one here or there.
Well, it's like I just started reading the Mistborn Brandon Sanderson book. And he's got a little foreword in it that he wrote for his editor. And I was telling you about it the other night, that they'd asked him why he thought the book was so successful. And his simple answer was luck, because he felt that there was a lot of books that were better than his book that just didn't get the chance that they needed to get out there, whereas he was just lucky and it got out. And I think that's kind of the way of anything. And I think that's the way of the podcast. If you got everyone on the planet, forced them all to listen to it, you'd get a huge percentage of them that would enjoy it and find it interesting. But that opportunity requires a bit of luck.
Yeah.
And I think the intention for the podcast is to have interesting conversations, and
it will flow to the people that it flows to.
That's it.
That's why I feel like when they are ready to meet the words that we say, that's when they'll meet them.
Yeah.
And that, like, it's the whole thing with it is kind of, I've had a sort of troubling year and ended up in quite a dark place. And my feeling was, all the emotions come out, my feeling was, if I died, I would want all the things that I think about and talk about, and I talk about it with you and things like that, as I would like it to be accessible, like people to learn from me and what I've learned.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a lot of where the podcast has come from, is that sort of feeling of, well, if I can put what I've learned and gone through out in the world, then it kind of bridges the gap. People are able to get through things easier because they'll see, I've gone the wandering path and they can take the direct route over the bridge. And but now I'm not in such that sort of place where it felt in that desperation of need of wanting to share. It now just feels like it's just a great place to talk about things. And really, what I really like about it is we make time to talk about these things. So, we talk about it, we talk about it that we do in the truck, but, how often are we actually in the truck together and we talk about these things? And, it's become more often because we go to kickboxing class, which is half an hour away, so we have that time. But you know what? Not always do we want to talk about bigger subjects than, look at the weather. Yeah. So, it's like, now I've moved on to a place of I'm just enjoying doing it for us. And I think that's been some of my learning this year, is instead of looking for what it's going to bring for other people or whether it will bring me money or, what it brings to me, it's more about how I feel in doing it and following that inspiration, the creativity and the feeling of just doing it because I want to do it. Because
you enjoy doing it. Yeah. And the other thing is that you do get something out of it. Because especially because of the things we talk about, I find they tend to help you work through things in your mind.
Yeah, we have our therapy session every weekend.
Exactly. Some are more in-depth than others.
That's like going through back to that dark moment with the emotion there and realizing I'm not there anymore. And that's like, again, that's the gift from this year. I've moved forward from that point of, the darkness, and I'm moving into the light. I feel like a different person. Yeah.
Thanks to the podcast.
Thanks to the podcast helping me work my way through things. And there's been a few times and I've said, we'll just not do one this week. And you and our friend Relish, who was on one of the podcasts, is like, no, you've got to do one. And it's really strange because even he's very convicted to wanting the podcast to keep going. And that's interesting to me because, I just felt like it wouldn't matter if I missed one.
Yeah. It's that thing too, when you're trying something new, is it's easy to start out and then drop off. The commitment to keep going is the hard bit.
But that's, I do a photo a day journal.
Yeah.
And I've just reached 10 years of doing a photo every day.
Yeah.
10 years every day. So I don't think commitment is a problem as long as it's something that I feel I can commit to.
Yeah.
The podcast, it's just, there's been some ups and downs with it. So, yeah. It's not going to stop anytime soon because you and Relish won't let me.
Yeah, that's it.
I think sometimes it's that resistance to, there's just resistance. And,
there's always resistance.
Yeah. Oh, well. What do you think of our reflection podcast? It was kind of an interesting little journey.
It was an interesting little journey. And I think I agree that it is nice to look back and see what you've accomplished.
Yeah. It's like you've got to look at the challenges and the quotation bad things that have happened and see that you've grown through them. Mm-hmm. And perhaps, like I said, they're really recent, so you haven't quite finished growing through them. So they're harder to look at, but acknowledging the fact that you are actually moving forwards with them,
So does that mean our next one's on looking forwards?
Yeah. I think the next one's going to be on like the intention. I know people do their New Year resolutions, but I like the idea of intention. Like, how do I intend to be? How do I intend to feel and things in the new year? So, yeah.
Exciting.
Yep. That'll be an interesting one to do. Thank you for joining me again today.
Thank you.
Having our mini therapy session in the podcast.